overwhelmingly voted in support of several ballot measures aimed to quell the spike in crime and drugs. Who could have guessed that would have happened? So now they voted for Measure E to expand police powers by making it easier for officers to pursue suspects and provide the police force with new cameras and drones, and Measure F, which will require drug screenings for adults receiving welfare, both passed with 60% or above in favor. And wow.
What a crazy shift. It was just a couple of years ago where they were ushering in Chesa Boudin as the radical DA. Yep. And if you don't know who he is, he's basically like a Marxist with, I think it was his parents were in Weather Underground.
Yes.
They went from that to getting rid of him mid-tenure and now radically reversing everything. But look at the trend. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't he the first like Soros-backed DA that we saw?
So
was he the first one?
Well, I looked into his connections to Soros were a lot more hard to find out. There was like groups that support groups that eventually go back. But I mean but the traces were there, and all those other DAs and attorney generals that were getting thrown in by Soros, they were either on their way out or they're now in those areas. What's happening now in San Francisco is the same. But I mean, this is a crazy trend. Just what was it this week? Also, Oregon.
Right.
They're recriminalizing drugs because they found out that, when you just let people run wild with drugs.
Turns out that's not a good policy.
Not very good.
Oh, no.
Some people might overdose, and so they're reversing. New York governor now putting National Guard in the subways. Is this, go to places like Mexico where you're like, oh my gosh, that guy's standing there with an Uzi and he's got a uniform on. Like, what is happening? Am I safe? That is now New York City.
I know.
Gosh.
It turns out, Jason, that not like having law and order in your cities is not a good policy, it turns out. I don't know who could have possibly predicted that just letting people run wild and decriminalizing things like, petty theft and all of these things that we all agreed were bad things and shouldn't happen. It turns out that that's not such a good idea.
Where do they get this research? I mean, where do you find research material on that? If you just let people like break the law, where does it say they're going to break the law then, and do violent things? Where do they get this?
I just...
Give them the benefit of the doubt, Sarah.
No, I won't. I won't.
Stupid.
I won't. And you're seeing these leftist, I was going to say utopia for them, but clearly I mean dystopia, all of these cities and how far they've fallen. And part of me is like, I don't even know if you put the genie back in the bottle at this point. Like when you're talking about New York with Kathy Hochul saying that they're going to put these, more National Guard in the subways and all. And now all of a sudden you guys are going to get tough on this, but like, is it too late?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think there will be a radical shift back to normalcy. I hope so. Like they railed for the longest time against stop and frisk. This is essentially stop and frisk. Did you read like the details? So if they're going to go through and if people have handbags, they're going to go and look through their handbags.
What?
Yes, in New York City. So imagine you just going with your purse and like there's a uniformed guy, a military guy. It's like, I'm sorry, sir, I'm going to have to look into your purse. Screw you? Like in New York?
Wow.
That's how bad it has gotten there.
Yeah.
I saw this insane rant by Jon Stewart. Have you seen any of his stuff as he's come back?
Try not to.
He's actually kind of a little bit more balanced, so he'll actually hit Biden like SNL like rarely ever does, if any at all. But he was talking about, the just incredible, like there is not a rise in immigrant crime. Well, ask the family of Laken Riley if there's a rise but they point to these allegorical searches. I don't care about your allegorical comparisons on numbers. Right. I don't care if there's more domestic crime than there is illegal immigrant crime. That's illegal immigrant crime is crime that should never have happened.
Right.
They don't belong here. They should. She should be alive right now if you would enforce the law.
Right.
It's a cascading effect. You're not enforcing the law on the border. You're going to have illegal immigrant crime. You're not enforcing the law in these cities, which I think he even mentioned in his monologue. He's like, I think, that, we've got domestic crime. It's not just yeah, we do, because your people are not enforcing the law. Right. Have you seen the study? It just blows my mind. I'll see all of these. There was an NBC report, a few other reports that I was looking at that was saying, if you look at it, crime is actually on the decline. And they'll look at violent crime and they'll see like homicides and things like that that have declined since the pandemic. Well, clearly there's a rise in just robberies, burglaries, larceny, because otherwise we wouldn't have effing National Guard in the subways.
Right. Don't worry, everything's fine. We're just militarizing
Look at
everything.
the studies. Look at the studies. Not just troops.
If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.